everybody, welcome to the Dreamer's Edge podcast. I am sitting with
Eric. I'm an English teacher.
Nicholas. I write video game reviews for thedreamersedge.com.
Francois. I'm a librarian, part-time writer, and I've actually written a piece or two on the Dreamer's Edge. Yay!
Yay.
Chris, subtitle editor and occasional writer.
And I'm Dimitri, webmaster of thedreamersedge.com and movie critic. And this is part 2 of our talk of the best of the 80s. Now, for those of you who listened in the last episode, Chris, Nick, and I shared our top 4 movies of the decade. And now it's Frank and Eric's turn to share with us their top 3. We're just doing 3 this time.
Okay.
And
We've been downgraded.
Exactly. Frank, get us started with your picks.
Now should I go 3-1 or 1-3?
3-1. Your number 3 pick for best movie of the 80s, Frank.
Well, I don't want to be too predictable. Darn it. I'm going to have to go with...
Transformers movie.
Damn it. Now I'm changing in my mind. Damn it, I'm going to go with Aliens. I almost picked
Never saw that coming.
I almost picked Wrath of Khan, I have to say, because of its importance in the Star Trek lore and because of the fact that, it essentially saved the series, and it was probably the first real TV to movie adaptation franchise.
Like a backdoor endorsement is what
Kind
you're
of,
doing, right?
kind of, yes. It's kind of my number 4, my secret number 4. I am number 4. Was that the movie?
It is the name of a movie. And also of books, is it?
Yeah.
Book
Starring Chris Pettyford?
Is that the same as James Pettyford, the guy who played Mark Anthony?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, back on topic. Number 3, Aliens. Well, I have to say that's an interesting pick, I think. Because, sorry guys, I'm sort of, I kind of need the validation. I would say, well, the reason I find it's interesting,
Tell us more about
and
it.
I have to agree with Frank's choice, is that well, here we have the Ridley Scott classic that kind of pretty much redefined the sort of space horror film, and James Cameron's career. I'm fascinated by James Cameron. I love him as a director. I think that
So does he.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, he does have a big ego, but I have to give him props. He does have a vision, and he is he has an almost Kubrick-esque approach to filmmaking.
Ooh, that's a bold statement.
Well, in the sense that he is obsessed with details. The thing about Aliens is that here we have James Cameron, who does a sequel to this movie, which a lot of people figure couldn't be improved upon, and I think Aliens is really a major achievement visually. It expands the Aliens universe so much more, and it really features an incredible performance by Sigourney Weaver, who a lot of people forget got a nomination for an Oscar for Best Actress, which, you look back on, the notion of, the female action hero. And it was really a landmark moment, I think. There's really a before and after thing. Yeah, I mean, you had blaxploitation movies in the 80s. You're Under Arrest, Sugar, I mean, Charlie's Angels. You had stuff on television. It's not like there was a complete vacuum before she came along, but, in many ways she was a mother and a worker, and she became a hero, but she didn't do it in a sort of over-the-top kind of way.
Yeah, she didn't kung fu her way to it. Pretty
much. And, I mean, there's also a very interesting ensemble cast. I mean, the whole notion of the colonial Marines. I mean, we've got so many faces. Like, I remember when I first watched it, I was so amazed by all these characters, which were all interesting. Obviously there's the military dynamic, but done in a science fiction style that was really cool. I mean, it's a movie with a lot of twists, a lot of surprises. The whole concept of the motion sensors was such a great idea, and such a great way to create tension within the movie. I mean, here we have a device which technically should give you such an edge on your enemy, but Cameron takes that and twists it around and turns it into something that is so very scary. And I mean, props to Michael Biehn, Bill Paxton, which his performance as Hudson is unforgettable. Game over, man.
And you missed one that I want to mention. Is
Lance Erickson.
Lance Erickson, exactly.
Yeah.
Bishop the Robot. He's phenomenal.
How many people lost their fingers doing the knife trick that he does?
What's so funny, man?
Yeah, exactly.
There are so many little lines like that just blow me away. Nick, you were going to say something. You were going to agree with me, I think.
You might have actually been about to compliment him for his choice.
Now, what I remember mostly about that movie is that people complained a lot that it wasn't like Alien, like completely missing the point that if you want to
It had
a
an
movie-
S after.
Yeah, it has an S after, but if you want to see a movie like Alien, just watch Alien. Alien is like completely different, like action, and yeah, they're both enjoyable on different levels, and yeah, it's a very good
Totally
choice.
agree.
I actually like it more than the first one in a way. You know what I mean? Like it's just for the pacing.
Same here.
I really liked it. You know what I mean? It's a good choice. You know what I mean?
I get a Chris endorsement.
No, because I think even you know what I mean. Like we talked about it off microphone as like one of the things that like had we had more choices, it certainly would have been in all of our choices. You know what I mean? Like it's one of the ones that you remember having seen. You know, and especially for that time. And the thing is, it does that clever thing where it's just like it's like the first one. It doesn't reveal everything. You know, like you said. You know what I mean? Like it reveals more. It's more confident with the technology, with the special effects. But at the same time, some of the creepiest is just watching those dots.
Yeah.
Aliens is possibly the only great sequel that starts off completely missing the point of the original. Yeah, like you mentioned, the original is a horror film. It's based on claustrophobia. And Cameron took it and was like, nope, this is an action movie.
Yeah.
And it's like, what? But it works. By some uncanny reason, it's as memorable.
Yeah, and taking the character, because in the first one, she's basically running around in her underwear, and you have like this gross thing that's chasing after her.
But then you get the second one, and she's definitely a lot stronger.
Well, one of the things I also want to mention is the fact that Aliens is one of those movies where the last hour is completely unrelenting.
Yeah.
It starts off with Mute sort of like falling down the air shaft, and then the movie does not stop. The only comparable experience that I recall offhand would be the end of Temple of Doom.
Yeah.
That's another one where you get towards the end and you're completely exhausted. I have to say the sound effect of the pulse rifles to this day, to me, the only sound effect in movie history that tops it, well, the Wilhelm scream is really funny. I kind of like that one. But the lightsaber noise, I mean, I think anybody who's around our age absolutely has to,
Godzilla's roar. Come on.
Godzilla's roar. Well, no, that's top 10 for sure. But I do give a strike to James Cameron. I mean, he completely ripped off Heinlein's Starship Troopers while making it. Just in the terms of the language, the approach to colonial marines. Who was it? Arlen Hellison famously said when he heard that they were making Starship Troopers, he says, "Why are they doing it? I mean, they've already done it. It's called Aliens."
All right, Frank, your number 2 pick for best movie of the 80s?
My number 2 pick is Back to the Future.
Nice.
It's one of those movies that you remember the very first time you saw it. I mean, everything about it. You remember.
It's almost
sitting
like
in the
comfort
theater.
food, huh?
I absolutely. I remember just going for smoked meat afterwards and just reeling back from the experience. I like it for several reasons. I think. It takes a basic story idea of the time machine and completely reinvents it. I mean, the whole idea of turning a DeLorean into a time machine was just kind of cool, and as Doc Brown would say, why not do it in style? It's an incredibly clever screenplay. Not a line of dialogue is wasted. It's a clever take, I would say, on that question that every kid has, which is, what were my parents like? Back to the Future also features a really interesting story. The friendship between Marty and Doc is very touching in a sense. It's subtle, but it kind of builds up on it. Here you have somebody who says, I have to tell you something. I have to tell you something about the future, and it's that last moment. When he comes back is I don't know. It's a really interesting experience. I loved it.
Yeah, interestingly, I think Nick, you picked it as your best of the 80s.
Yeah, one of my best. Yeah. I don't remember quite exactly what I said about it, so I'm going to leave it at that. But
But yeah, it's definitely a fun movie, and Michael J. Fox, just the energy that he has, and even the guy that plays McFly, like his father, and the guy that plays the bully too.
Biff.
Yeah, Biff. I love that guy. Like, he was excellent at playing a jerk.
Why?
Yeah, exactly.
That's
And
in
it's
the
a lot of
diner
fun.
That, when he goes McFly and they both turn around, and then it's, I just love that zoom on Michael J. Fox's face as he realizes he's been sitting right next to his dad. And all the, the time travel gags, who the hell's John F. Kennedy? Or like,
Yeah, exactly.
Obviously the whole, Ronald Reagan is president. It's like, oh, that's heavy. And it's like, there's that term again, heavy. Is there a problem with the Earth's gravitational pull in the future? Like, it's clever on so many levels. And, I just can't praise it enough.
Alright, so Frank, your number one pick for best movie of the 80s.
Well, it's going to have to be
The secret of my success.
Raiders of the Lost Ark.
On the previous episode, we all joked, it's like, we're not going to name Raiders of the Lost Ark. Everybody knows it's a good movie.
Well, I have to insist.
It must be named.
It needs to be up on the board. Well, I mean, Empire Strikes Back was written in the 80s.
Another back door. Everyone sit back.
I demand the floor. Obviously, Empire built up on Star Wars and has possibly the greatest movie twist of all time, or maybe not. Maybe Citizen Kane's better. Who knows? Raiders of the Lost Ark is really another one of those scripts that wastes no time whatsoever. I mean, it does completely harness the whole pulp tradition of the 1930s, but it really gives it a new edge. I think, unless I am mistaken, it was the actual first contribution between Spielberg and Lucas, correct? And boy, can you see it. It's interesting. It has an awesome cast. Obviously, Harrison Ford. I mean, okay, not content with playing Han Solo. He turns around and gets to play the part of Indiana Jones. Tom Selleck was going to be originally the guy. Oh my God! No offense to Tom Selleck, but I think bullet dodged. I think
it would have come off a lot more traditional because Indiana Jones, as written, is sort of almost a non-character in keeping with the serials they were making. And what Harrison Ford brought to the role is his personality to it, his sort of sardonic take on it.
The whole improvised scene with the gun and the sword fight, which, was pure Harrison Ford.
But Spielberg is interesting for that, where he can jump and kind of play with it, improvise right there on the spot.
For sure. Arguably the greatest car chase scene of all time. I mean,
French Connection.
French Connection's good, but
awesome.
But they don't actually climb all over the truck, over and under it. I mean, I was like, you look back on that scene and you go, I don't know how long it took to shoot. I don't know how they were able to keep it straight, but my God, he goes everywhere in this truck. I mean, just everywhere. So, and of course, being shot at the same time. Great finale, absolute great finale. I mean, for a kid who's 14 watching that, you're like, oh my God, that's pretty awesome. And a little scary, but yeah.
True story, when I was a kid, I actually would close my eyes when it reached that scene, afraid that the Ark of the Covenant would melt my face.
Well, I mean, it's at the time, obviously you watch it today and you see the special effects to a certain extent, which are a little dated, but it's just still such an awesome scene. I have to say, looking at it, yeah, it stays with you. I don't blame you for closing your eyes. So yeah, kids, don't go after the Ark.
I think Indiana Jones, though, stands out interestingly for being an action movie that works undeniably, but when you stop and think about it, Indiana Jones achieves nothing. If he had not been in that plot, the exact same thing would have happened. The Germans would have gotten the Ark of the Covenant, they would have opened it, they would have melted, somebody would have picked it up. He is utterly useless to the story.
And we love him for it.
But he tries really, really hard. And he gets beaten up for it. And his shirt gets ripped off.
And he can hold his breath really, really long underwater.
You're, of course, referring to the fact that Indy hangs onto the periscope of a submarine that goes all the way from somewhere in the north of Africa all the way to...
Some island somewhere.
And there have been all kinds of sites dedicated to that quote-unquote plot hole. They will point out that at that time, submarines did not submerge unless they were entering enemy territory.
Yeah, that's
so
They were U-boats, so
Yeah.
they were not. They only submerged to attack you, right? So.
he's very endurant and resistant to cold.
Yes.
I will say.
It's just more stuff that goes into Area 51. Quick shout out, Rene Belloc, an awesome villain. I mean, just really, the Germans are always cool villains. I mean, the Nazis, I would say. Sorry.
No, German Nazi interchangeable.
German Nazis. No, whoa. Hey.
I hear about the Nazis, though, being great villains. One of the many problems with Crystal Skulls for me was that the Russian communists, I felt bad for them whenever they would die, or as opposed to the Nazis, I was like, yeah, just die.
Yeah, pretty much. Well, I think it's why they got a lot of flack for doing Temple of Doom, and like, the whole, there was some people said like, okay, this is culturally insensitive, blah blah blah, and like Spielberg said, okay, when we sat down to do the third one, it's like, let's go back to Nazis. Who's going to complain? But also Marion Ravenwood, awesome performance. I mean, her introduction was so cool, and I think that she really does well throughout the entire movie. I mean, she has the sort of, screaming parts, obviously, once they're in the pit and this and that, but she still brings something.
That when you see her in the fourth, you're like, what happened to you, you poor
Yeah.
thing?
Well, look, I mean, I'm not going to criticize her looks or anything like that.
No,
it's nothing
but
to do
even
with that.
acting-wise.
Hey, but if you don't have the material, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
It's-
I would exactly. I would blame the material, which was completely. I mean, even
True.
Everybody in that film was like, anyways. But that's what we have. We have filmmakers who go back and kill their children in front of our eyes.
Oh my god. On
On
that note,
Eric, what's your number 3?
my number 3 is Crimes and Misdemeanors by Woody Allen. And I picked that one because that was one of those films that Woody Allen kind of got serious, in a sense. And there's 2 plots that are going on in this film. And at one point, one man is having an affair. It's Martin Landau that plays him. And he goes to talk to his brother, who's basically a thug. And next thing you know, the woman he's having an affair, who threatened to talk to his wife and everything else, ends up dead. They end up sitting together and having a talk. And it's that kind of thing of sometimes the worst thing that could ever happen is justice doesn't come. You have to live with your own sins. I kind of spoiled the story in a bit, but for me, it was one of those things where Woody Allen kind of moved into a different part as far as his films were concerned. It wasn't like Take the Money and Run, where it was a bunch of gags. All of a sudden, he started to do like comedy and very dramatic also at the same time. And I thought, when it came ahead to that conversation, I thought that was so poignant and quite fascinating.
I'd love to see a chart kind of like tracking Woody Allen's films on a continuum in a way, because certainly he starts with, Bananas and Sleeper and all these things that are really like, goofball, comedies is what it comes down to.
Goofy, but they still had a certain flair.
But then you start hitting, the Manhattans, the Annie Halls, and something like Crime and Misdemeanors, and it's true. You know what I mean? Like he starts going into this like a little bit more like mature, and he's not even middle aged yet. You know what I mean? But he's starting to kind of approach film in a different way.
I'm more in tune with Woody Allen's later period, although I love Bananas. Zelig was hilarious. What's Up, Tiger Lily for sure.
Oh my God, yeah.
I think to me it's with John Cusack, the playwright.
Bullets Over Broadway. I love that one.
I arguably, but to me it boils down to that and.
I think that's the one that kind of brought him back for a lot of
Lily.
people in our generation.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like when that one, and where he kind of wasn't on the screen.
Yeah.
You prove that he's like, for us anyway, that he's like, oh, here's a good filmmaker.
Yeah.
My point being though is like when you watch his stuff, it's almost like watching a little mini course on like film history in terms of genres, styles, things he's trying to do, and watching him mature. The thing is sometimes they're going to be real misses.
Yeah.
We've talked about that before, but this one, great film.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Eric, your number 2 pick for best movie of the 80s.
Ferris Bueller's Day Off.
Hey, somebody picked it. Awesome. I kind of wish somebody would.
This is one of my all-time favorite movies just because when I was a kid, I absolutely loved it. Maybe because, I was kind of dorky, and then you see Ferris Bueller, who has all the confidence in the world, and he's constantly, not scheming, but he just maneuvers his way into whatever. He can talk himself out of anything. And it's just a lot of fun seeing that film. Matthew Broderick, well, after the whole car accident, kind of became nerdy and weird. But he never got back that kind of swag that he had in Ferris Bueller.
Yeah, and that one he really embodied. He was the smartest person in the room.
Yeah, exactly.
You wouldn't, not the person you would have pictured, but he pulled it off.
And even then, he cared about his friends. It was all about taking his friends out and his girlfriend out and having one day just before everybody goes out and lives their lives, going to college and everything else. And he just wanted to get them all together.
Well, yeah, he's sort of the mythical best friend
Yeah.
everyone wants to have at that age.
Yeah, exactly. And incredibly popular, everybody loves him and everything else. And that was one thing that I loved about that film, the energy. And at the same time, really kick-ass lines that still make me laugh.
John Hughes, to me, I'd say it's a really difficult pick between Breakfast Club and Ferris Bueller's.
Yeah, true.
As my all best for him. But I absolutely agree 100%. Another movie that I remember going to see, Breaking of the Fourth Wall, is sublime. That final scene where, of course, you're sitting in a theater and he goes and he says, "You're still here?" One of those rare movies that actually has you laughing during and after the credits. But a lot of energy. The whole twist and shout scene. It's really one of those movies, oddly enough, that I remember a lot of adults loving as much as we did, which is kind of interesting. Sometimes you'll have a certain type of audience prefers it, but this one seems to really.
Well, I think it was because it was entertainment, right? Really, it was obviously this guy doesn't exist. There's no way that you would have somebody that cool and sort of that popular.
Well, I'm working on it. What's interesting, actually, is that it's not just a comedy, too. There's a lot of drama in it, and it's very good. I love the museum scene. When I actually visited the Chicago Art Institute, I was like, okay, this is like my Ferris Bueller thing. I did stand in front of that painting and look at the little girl. I wasn't wearing a jersey for the Red Wings, though.
But I want to get Nick's opinion because I know you hate the movie, and I'm sort of interested in getting your take.
To me, you explained it to me about he's not really a person. He's like something else. He's a force of nature, whatever. I just saw him as a kid who didn't want to go to school, and
You wanted to go to school, so he was a loser.
I understood. I understand school has its purpose. It's useful. We all got where we are by going to school. So it's already I hate the character. So it's okay, you already lost me at the beginning there. Go to school and it's useful.
Get a real job.
You hear us, kids? The principal was right.
Yeah.
But the actor was also arrested later on for possession of.
I'm a teacher, but I didn't want to go to school when I was young. Who does?
So
Nick, have you not been listening?
Yeah, exactly.
I understood the purpose of school. I hated it's subjects in school that wasted my time, like gym or stuff like that. I was like, I'm not learning anything here. This is stupid, On that note.
So my number one 80s film is a film that really brought the Coen brothers on the map. Blood Simple.
Oh.
I love the genre itself, detective fiction, and this one is really interesting, visually stunning, and even the plot, the stories, I love it. And even the shady kind of detective that's all dressed in white that keeps following them. Not exactly an actor you would expect, but turns out he's actually kind of creepy, and it works. It works. It's just a movie that really works. And still one of my favorites. Yeah.
No, they've got a way of casting in such a way that you've got these characters you don't necessarily consider threatening who suddenly become threatening for whatever reason. And you end up buying it, you know, and it becomes more real as a result because it's true. You know, it just takes someone to kind of push you, and we're also civilized. I'm not going to maybe push them back. And you've got this person who kind of gets you on the defensive, you know, and it just keeps coming and coming and coming. And it's just like, and the detective is kind of like that. It's just like he's sweaty and gross, and he's just there, and he's just stepping on the wrong side of like civility.
Yeah, exactly. And simply like that was really one of the films that I kind of went back after discovering the Coen brothers, and when I saw it, I was like, okay, now I understand why people made a big deal out of these two. And to this day, I still find them like really, really interesting as filmmakers. Not too keen on their comedies, but
they have a very esoteric sense of humor.
Yeah, I get the jokes. It's just sometimes I don't really laugh.
Well, that's the thing. I get like everybody can get the joke because they're talented filmmakers. It's just not everybody will find that funny.
Yeah, exactly. But nonetheless, whenever it comes to drama, I still find them the best. And definitely, this is one of their best films that you could ever find.
Yeah, no, it's a really, really good choice. It's a little bit difficult to kind of track down.
Yes, it is.
But it's worth the effort, for sure.
So you wish that 30 years along the line, they would have like an anniversary for this, as opposed to Blade Runner.
Yeah.
Maybe it's because they didn't recut it.
Well, I'm pretty sure that's the reason, actually.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
Well, it's simpler. The director's cut.
On that note...
Simply bloody.
Yeah, no, I like his better.
Yeah, I like it too. Please cut that out.
No. That's it. That's all our picks for the 80s. If you want to write us, share your best of the 80s, you can write us at mail@thedreamersedge.com or post a comment at thedreamersedge.com. Just click on the episode name. We're also on Facebook. We're also on Twitter. We're also on iTunes. And next time, we'll discuss the worst of the 80s.